Folks ready? Everybody ready? Yeah. Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Oh, thanks. That's so nice. Hey, it's the first Friday of the year, and you know what that means. It's time for Fishtrap Fireside. That's right, our monthly reading series for local folks to share their work. You know, every month you get to hear stories from people who live around here and hear a little bit about what they're thinking about and writing down. You all came through. It says don't touch the microphone.
You can do it again. It's okay.
No, that's fine. So this is the 13th season of Fishtrap Fireside. It's unbelievable. Whoever knew that many people had the courage to come up here and share their stories with the people that they call friends and neighbors, and we're really happy about it. So I want to welcome all of you who maybe this is your first time to Fishtrap Fireside, or maybe it's been a long time since you've come. And I also want to welcome everybody who's watching out there at fishtrap.org or on Fishtrap's YouTube channel. We're happy to have you too. Here's how Fireside works. Every month we have 3 people come up to the podium and just share whatever that they feel like. We don't ask them what they're going to read. It's always as much a surprise to me as it is to any of you, so that's kind of fun. Let's give a big hand to our 3 readers this month. Are you ready? Sarah Petrillo. Nick Lunde. And June Colony. Afterwards, we'll take a short intermission where you can go back here and sample one of Jennifer Hobbs' cookies and refill your glass and get to know somebody maybe you haven't met before or haven't seen in a while. And after about 10 minutes, we'll get back together and have the open mic section of the program where 5 people from out here in the crowd get up to 5 minutes to share something that they want to share with you folks. Are they all full already? No. There's only 1 person on the open mic list so far. So at the intermission, if you're feeling it, go ahead and put your name on there, and we'd love to have you. For those who do read at the open mic, remember that this is a general all-age audience. So if you're going to think about that when selecting your work. If you have any language or scenes which might be tough for people to listen to, let them know in advance. Before we get started, it's important to mention that January's Fishtrap Fireside has a sponsor, like we do every month, and this month's sponsor is the Nature Conservancy, which is pretty cool. Yeah. TNC's mission is to conserve the lands and waters on which all life depends. And if any of you have not been up to visit the Zumwalt Prairie Reserve, do so this spring and take a look at the wildflowers. They've got interpretive signs and trails, and it's just a blast to be up there. You can also talk to one of the guys who works at the place right over here, Jeff Fields. Okay, let's get to our first reader. Are you ready? Sarah, from a young age, Sarah Petrillo was bound to become an outdoor educator. She spent the summers of her youth frolicking around the Wallowa Lake United Methodist Campground up at Wallowa Lake, with her mom, and where her mom ran family camps. Soon, her mom discovered that Sarah was a pretty great kid wrangler and put her in charge of campfires, games, and taste-testing desserts in the camp kitchen. Nice. While at camp, she was lucky enough to attend Fishtrap youth workshops. which inspired some of her first creative writing. At the age of 19, Sarah followed her love of the outdoors and became a river guide at Winding Waters River Expeditions. While on the river, she spent countless nights listening to guides tell fantastic tales of whitewater and adventure. Some of them may have been fibs, and eventually began telling some of her own, not fibs. She now works as an experience education program coordinator at the University of Puget Sound, where she leads college students on outdoor adventures. On any given day, you can find her kayaking, skiing, or hiking around her home base in Snoqualmie, Washington, where she continues to be inspired and utterly humbled by the rivers and mountains that surround her. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello, I'm so grateful to be here tonight and that Fishtrap keeps inviting me back. And I have a couple of stories to weave in with some of my poetry tonight. I have 3 pieces accompanied by stories. So here we go. This year marks 10 years since I first started river guiding. And for the vast majority of those years, once summer rolled around, I would leave my winter home in western Washington and make my pilgrimage out to Joseph for a wet and wild summer in the canyons of eastern Oregon and Idaho. Although I absolutely love the river and the change of scenery from the damp old-growth forests of the west side to the arid big skies of the canyons, every time I made this journey, I left someone important behind. My lover, my confidant, and my best friend, Sanjay. For a while, I felt like I was living in 2 different worlds that were incompatible, constantly choosing between 2 of my greatest loves, the river and the boy back home. You know, a classic case of a love triangle, a boy, a girl, and a river. So, in an attempt to weave those worlds together, I would send love letters back home. There is a little mailbox in the depths of Hell's Canyon at a place called Kirkwood Ranch that is still serviced by a jet boat. And so the morning before we passed the mailbox, I would have a letter stamped and ready to send back to my love in Seattle and put up the little flag to let the jet boat know that it was there. And this piece is one of those letters that I sent back home. It's called Love Letter to Hell's Canyon and the Boy Back Home. I woke up today in the dark, stars still shining against the earliest light of dawn. I looked at my watch, 5 a.m., time to start coffee water. It was that odd time of morning where it was light enough to feel silly using a headlamp, but dark enough that my eyes still strained to make out the details of the pump pots and coffee filters. This kind of light only comes in September, when the sun seems to struggle to make it over the canyon walls, moving slower than she did in the heat of the summer. I guess we are both tired from the hard labor of the past couple of months. Her weary climb allows the nocturnal critters more time to scavenge one final morsel of last night's dinner droppings. I hear their tiny feet scamper around me. It allows the night heron time to sing one last song and gives the bats one last hunt for a swarm of hackberry moths. It gives my friends one last chance to dream, for her light has not yet pierced through their tents to awake them. And it gives me one last moment to listen, observe, and meditate on this canyon that I love so deeply. There is always a moment at the end of the river season when I realize fall has begun. This morning was that moment. And I am all at once relieved and sorrowful knowing that my time here is once again coming to a close. But as the sun peeks up over the canyon rim, my sorrow is replaced by yearning. Her velvety rays lap against the edges of the riverbank, calling to me, and I can't help but to slip into her open arms. She reminds me how good it feels to be enveloped in something familiar. She reminds me how good it feels to return to a warm embrace. She reminds me how good it feels to come back home to you. And we got married this year. I think it worked. Many people don't realize that the deepest canyon in North America is right here in Wallowa County. It's Hell's Canyon. And I wrote this next piece while guiding one of the strangest and most surreal river trips I've ever been on. It was a fish trap outpost on Hell's Canyon with author and professor Joe Wilkins. The trip launched while a wildfire was blazing in the canyon. We'd wake up to hazy skies, ash on our sleeping bags, and go to sleep with the glow of the fire on the canyon rims. The backdrop of this fire produced some really dark and tragically beautiful writing throughout the whole group. I think that the grief of the canyon was speaking through us. As a guide, you have the privilege of being a steward to the land. You learn its stories, become accustomed to its seasonal rhythms and cycles, and develop a relationship with it, a true love for it. And when you love the land, you also end up grieving for it. In many ways, when the land suffers, you are suffering alongside it. You sweat in the oppressive summer heat waves. You struggle to breathe in the smoke and ash from the wildfires. You feel the slime of the ag runoff in the river on your skin. You stumble and stub your toes on the rocky beaches that used to be covered in soft sand before the dams blocked the silt from flushing through. Hell's Canyon is a place that has experienced a lot of environmental harm and has been witness to so much human suffering. It feels like almost every river mile there is a story of displacement, death, murder, massacre. Sometimes it's strange to take people on vacation there. Sharing the history of the place can be a big downer for someone trying to have a good time. As a guide, you're constantly trying to juggle sharing the reality and history of the land and also share the immense joy and dense life and beauty that still exists there. This piece was written for the side of me who grieves for Hell's Canyon and wants to recognize the dark side of history that still exists there. And this one is called The Deepest Canyon in North America. Cobweb-coated hackberry trees line rock-ridden riverbank. Memories of soft white sand sprinkled between slime and stone. High up on the floodplain, prickly pear and ponderosa poach in the long afternoon sun. The bloated carcass of a sturgeon lies among them, engorged with maggots in every open wound. She will never again feel the pull of the water, never earn the right to be embalmed by river. The dam masters never allow a proper burial. An eagle and osprey, having long forgotten the taste of salmon, battle over the writhing body of a smallmouth bass. In their desperate dance, the bass wriggles free, dropping dead to the river. Bighorn sheep stumble miles down steep canyon faces to sip pesticide-pumped water. Tour boats stop to watch, each passenger armed by iPhone, photo rolls filled with every stop along the way. Arrowhead, Pit Lodge, Pictograph. They never learn the names of those who came before them. They never think to ask. Unkept grasslands, choked with cheatgrass, burst to flame at the slightest lick of lightning. Smothered in a fiery haze, the sun reflects blood red in the river. Canyon walls stack up to the sky like library books, each layer a novel of years past. Every drainage is a dusty aisle of memories, some told, most forgotten. An ancient Nez Perce trail leads to the rustic relics of a Chinese mining camp. A homesteader's cabin, built on burial ground, rots into rat's nest. Chinook, lost between ladder and lake, never return home. Salmon dynasties doomed by dam. The heartbreak. Oh, the heartbreak. This canyon may not be deep enough for it all. Moving on to something a little lighter. As This is my last piece I'll read. One of my dear river guide mentors, Mike Baird, who is famous for his gruff one-liners, once told me that you aren't a real river guide until you've tried to quit at least 3 times. I think this rings true in the lives of almost every legacy guide I know, including myself. Guiding is a seasonal gig, which means that in between the summers, you end up living many different lives while working many strange and wonderful and sometimes boring jobs in the winter time to make ends meet. And every winter gives you time to contemplate. Do I really want to go back? Do I want to deal with the long, hot days, hard physical labor, coworkers who I love, but sometimes act like annoying siblings, and committing to another year of post-river winter blues and lack of job stability? But most years, as we approach spring, all of that is offset by the promise of big, fun whitewater, tanned legs, strong muscles, and a 3-month-long sleepover under the stars with some of your best friends. One year, however, that wasn't enough. After 8 years on the river, I declared myself burned out and applied for a summer gig at the Forest Service to use my degree in biology. I got the job as a field technician for the botanist in the Cle-Elum Ranger District, which is a really fancy way to say grass picker. My job was to scour the hot, dry hills of Natchez for ripe wild grass seed for the Forest Service to use in restoration projects. They would send me out on 4-day hitches to collect grass seed for 10 hours a day and camp in the field in between. They promised me that I would be joined by another technician who never showed up, and I don't blame her. Picking grass seed is a tedious task. It is almost impossible to identify a species. It turns out most grass looks the same. And it's upsettingly light. Our job was judged by how many pounds we could pick. So imagine the heartbreak when you spend 3 hours picking Acnatherum thuberinium to only get 4 ounces of seed. Needless to say, that is the summer that I discovered that I'm definitely not an introvert. And that, contrary to popular belief, there actually are not enough podcasts in the world to fill that kind of boredom. But in all of the loneliness and quietness, there were a few magical moments. The grass-picking job came at a time when I was grappling with who I was as a person, trying to decipher my path to come, and desperately trying to untangle my ego and self-esteem from the identity I'd built for myself as a river guide. The grass forced me to slow down, and the long stretches of silence forced me to finally grapple with who I wanted to become and what I needed to let go of to move on. My last day on the job, I realized that I would miss the silence, that there would probably never again be a time in my life that would allow me this much space and contemplative time free of distraction. That day, I sat down in a field of wild bunch grass and wrote this poem, my ode to the summer that the grass was my teacher. This one's called What the Grass Knows. The grass is so brave. It is the first to turn brown and brittle, showing the shrubs and the forbs and the trees that it is okay to change, to let a part of you go. Going to seed never comes easy. The grass knows this. A part of you must die. It must turn brown and shrivel and blow into the wind. It must go back to the earth from which it came. And so, let yourself go back to the earth. Lay dormant for a while. Bathe yourself in her gifts. Soil, rain, sun. Repeat until they seep deep into your being. Allow her to nurture you so completely that you cannot help but to sprout upwards from what seemed like death. And the grass, all dressed up in her new spring green, will be the first to tell you this, that miracles such as these require surrender, and rest, and that in time, you too can be renewed.
Thank you, Sarah. Let me tell you about a couple upcoming programs before we get to our next reader. In January, this is January, we are having I think this is the 20 or 21st year that Fishtrap has done a big read or Fishtrap Reads program. The goal is to get everybody to read a book together as a community and to talk about it. This year's book is The Bear. It's a fable. It's about a girl who finds herself alone in the wilderness, and she is befriended by a bear. But she also practices these ancient skills, these skills that she learned from her father to survive in the wilderness. It's a really cool book. I hope you all pick up a copy and join in. Our Big Read kickoff is next Friday, right here, a week from today. Where we put together kind of a cool thing. We've brought in all sorts of different organizations and agencies from Wallowa County to highlight certain skills that you see in this book. Let me just give you. Fishtrap will be transformed into an interactive space where you can learn about navigating by stars and constellations, animal tracking with biologist Mike Hansen, fished with Nez Perce Fisheries, wilderness survival skills from Wallowa County Search and Rescue, local wildlife from the Nature Conservancy, hibernation and migrations with the Greater Hells Canyon Council, and more. I just heard that the Lostine Grange is also putting together ancient skills things. So what you'll do is you'll walk in here and there'll be all these tables and you'll get to kind of interact with some of these skills which will inform your reading of The Bear. I hope you come. It's free. It's next Friday. Same time, same place. 5:30? Thanks, Shannon. I might have just ruined the whole thing for us, but you saved the day. Thanks. All right. The next thing is that summer Fishtrap registration opens on the 28th of this month. So if you know somebody who loves to write and would like to take a week of writing workshops up at Wallowa Lake, registration's open this month. We have a keynote this year on the theme of Our American Story. It's Oregon Poet Laureate Ellen Waterston, who's a great Fishtrap friend. So she'll be giving the keynote. Everybody is welcome to come up to the lake and see that. Okay, let's get to our next reader. Nick and Angie Lunde you've probably come to more Fishtrap Firesides than anybody has over the last 13 years. But Nick has never gotten up and read at the podium. You did read at an open mic last year or the year before? Twice. I do keep track of these things. So I thought, heck, let's ask Nick if he wants to come in and read. So Nick said yes. So let's learn a little bit about Nick Lunde. Nick was born and raised in Corvallis, Oregon in the 50s and 60s, a great place and time to be a kid. With a love of the outdoors and fascination with fire, he embarked on a career with the U.S. Forest Service, accompanied by Angie, the love of his life. Oh. Together, they lived in Central Oregon, North Cascades of Washington, and the Oregon coast, finally settling in Joseph in 1989 with their 3 children, Aaron, Peter, and Bryn. Now retired and staying active in the community. That's an understatement, Nick. Nick is finding time to reflect on his life and is happy that he never had to wear a necktie to work, remains fascinated with fire, and still very much in love with Angie. Come on up, Nick.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to start out, Susan, thank you for encouraging me to write, giving me prompts, and providing that. That means a lot. Friends and family who can't be here are watching online, so thanks for that. And we'll start. In the summer of 1960, when I was 8 years old, my father nearly died. He hadn't been feeling well and was seeing the doctor for his high blood pressure. I think my parents kept the seriousness of Dad's condition from me so I wouldn't be frightened, but I still remember being anxious. I knew something wasn't right about Dad's health. One July day, I was out with my mom somewhere, and when we arrived home, Dad was gone. This was worrying because we had taken the family car, and he did not make a habit of going for walks. After what seemed like a long time, my older brother Wayne, who fortunately was living at home attending summer school, called from the hospital and informed us Dad had suffered a heart attack. Wayne had come home from class and found Dad with severe chest pains, difficulty breathing, and had called the ambulance. This news immediately ramped up my anxiety, and I began to think about what life would be like without him. He was the sole provider for our family. Mom had taught school 1 year out of college, but she hadn't worked outside the home for almost 30 years. What would our future be like? I never really thought about anyone's mortality before. Both of my father's parents had died before I was born, heart things, and my mom's mother died when I was 2, so it didn't really impact me. My grandpa had remarried and was still going strong. My life up to now had been stable and safe. I can't remember how long Dad was in the hospital, but it seemed like a long time. Being a kid, I was not allowed to see him there, only Wayne and Mom could visit. When he did finally come home, it was really scary for me because he looked so gaunt and weak. He had to sleep in the living room on the hide-a-bed since he didn't have enough strength to go upstairs. It was a challenge for me to walk softly and keep my voice low so that I didn't disturb Dad's rest. I still played with my friends and helped around the house, but the specter of Dad's weakened condition was always on my conscious mind. Dad had been a 2-pack-a-day smoker of Chesterfield straights for 34 years prior to his heart attack. I remember him telling me as he recovered, asking the doctor when he could resume smoking, and was told, "Ralph, you can smoke anytime you want, but you can expect to live another 3 days if you do." To his credit, he quit cold turkey, which might explain why he looked as bad as he did. It was 3 months before he had the strength to climb the stairs to the bedroom, and then it was with difficulty. Because it was 1960, there were no interventions to help his heart heal. Angiograms, stents, angioplasty, clot-busting drugs were way off in the future still. The mortality rate from heart attacks, in the hospital was 30% then. He basically had to recover on his own and was damn lucky. Dad was a professor at Oregon State University. I don't remember for sure, but I think he was on leave for all of fall term. As he slowly regained his strength, it was a great day when he could walk to the street corner. However, within a year, he was walking 1 to 2 miles a day and eventually got up to 5 miles. Not bad for someone who always drove the car everywhere. Even at that, he tired easily and was affected by altitude. We'd always gone camping during his summer break, either at the coast or in the Cascades. Anytime he got over 4,000 feet after his heart attack, he would become short of breath, so the mountain camping trips were pretty infrequent. Anytime Dad became tired or short of breath, Mom and I were on high alert. Probably the biggest change in my life was diet. Dad was pretty skinny, and Mom was always trying to fatten him up, and I got the benefit of all that tasty high-fat food. Post-heart attack, we were on a strict non-fat diet. Skim milk, no eggs, no cheese, ice milk instead of ice cream, Cool Whip, corn oil margarine, super lean meat that had to be cooked for hours to be tender, and oatmeal all stand out in my memory. He had nitroglycerin tablets that he carried in his shirt pocket for chest pain or when he got short of breath from exertion. When I was about 10, I had learned about dynamite and was curious about his nitro tablets. I asked him if it was the same stuff, and he said yes. So we went to the garage and put one of the tablets on a small anvil. He gave me a hammer and told me to strike it on the tablet. It made a very small pop, not the explosion I was hoping for, probably for the best. Dad recovered pretty well for having a damaged heart, and much of the anxiety of that first year or two after the heart attack slipped into the background of my consciousness. He was able to resume his profession and work until retirement. I became closer with Dad following his heart attack. I liked doing things with my hands, and Dad was a master mechanic and pretty good woodworker. We formed a bond of quiet companionship, working on cars or building things for the house. Generally, though, Dad was a man of few words. I think having to give lectures may have used up his energy for talking, and he was a product of his Norwegian heritage. He was good at explaining how to build or fix things, though. And at times, I could get him to tell a story from his past, but it was pretty infrequent. In the fall of 1971, just after his 68th birthday, Dad died in the hospital following successful surgery for colon cancer. He was scheduled to come home the day he died. We didn't ever get a satisfactory explanation of why he died. He had survived his heart attack and lived 11 more years. I was a sophomore in college, and his sudden death was definitely a blow, but somehow it was tempered by what had happened 11 years prior. We'd been living with the knowledge that Dad wasn't 100%, and I found myself cherishing the extra 11 years I had with him. I was forced to accept and think about his mortality at an early age, and living with that knowledge had partially prepared me to accept his eventual death. I'm sad that he only had 1.5 years of retirement, though. He'd worked until he was 66 years old because I was still in high school and he thought the extra money would be needed. Upon retiring, he discovered that his take-home pay was the same as when he was working. Lesson learned. Both of my brothers and I retired as early as we could and never looked back. Okay, this one's a little lighter subject. My relationship with helicopters. At the beginning of my second season with the Forest Service in 1972, our district in the Ochako Mountains of Central Oregon had been assigned a helicopter for initial attack of fires for the very first time. Since this was a new asset in our toolkit for getting to fires, everyone who fought fire had to be trained in how to safely operate in and around the helicopter. As a group, we were taught how to package tools and load the external basket, approach and depart without running into moving rotors, and how to escape if you managed to survive a hard landing. After covering the basic protocols of ground operations, we were all scheduled to go for a short ride. It was a pretty hot day without a breath of wind. When my turn came, I went to the helipad, which was located on a small hill directly above the CCC-era warehouse compound of the ranger station. The helicopter was a Bell 47, a Korean War vintage machine still powered by a piston engine and notoriously underpowered, especially at high altitude and in hot air. If you remember the show MASH, it was one of those helicopters, a large plexiglass bubble in front, and a latticework frame of aircraft tubing supporting the tail boom, engine, and everything else. The overall impression viewing it was fragility. The cockpit only held 3, the pilot and 2 passengers all sitting side by side. As we loaded, I was directed to sit in the middle. Being a hot day, the doors were off, so we didn't get roasted inside the bubble. The pilot was pretty young, not much older than me at age 19. In the 70s, most of the helicopter pilots flying for Forest Service contracts were recent Vietnam vets. The other passenger and I were about the same size, and I remember it being a cozy fit for the three of us. Once we were belted in, the pilot started the engine and the machine began to vibrate and shake. As the engine speed increased, the shaking got more and more pronounced until it became a deafening symphony of noise and vibrations. As the pilot pulled the collective, adding pitch to the rotors, the main rotor blades raised up 10 to 15 degrees as the engine strained to lift us off the pad. Once airborne, maybe 10 to 20 feet off the ground, the pilot pushed the cyclic forward and we plunged off the hill, heading downward toward the compound in an effort to build speed and lift. In what could have been no more than 15 seconds, I remember watching the warehouse getting larger and larger, sure that this ride was going to end in a hard landing. We were low enough to see several people looking up with their mouths agape as we passed overhead, finally getting the needed lift to climb out and fly up the canyon, returning to the helipad in about 15 minutes. When we landed without further drama, I vowed that I would never seek a joyride in a helicopter. Over the years, the contract helicopters were replaced with turbine engine machines with a lot more power, but were still pretty fragile and subject to numerous mechanical issues. That first ride, I'm sure, influenced my relationship with helicopters the remainder of my career. I spent a lot of time flying in them when the work required it, but was never able to completely relax. Hearing the pilots describe their machines as 6,000 parts in loose orbit around an oil slick didn't inspire confidence either. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Hey, I just want to tell you about another program coming up in February. I think I invoked this earlier, and I know I did at a fireside earlier. When we were talking about the themes for summer fish trap and winter fish trap a few months ago, we started talking about, 2026 is the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and there's going to be a lot of celebrations around the country. We thought, why don't we just dive in and talk about our American story, how many different stories that there are. And so we're going for it, especially with winter fish trap coming up February 27 and 28. This winter, learn more about the history of storytelling. We all have different stories, right? How it helps us retell our history and shape our understanding of the present. Plus, learn how to tell your story and be inspired by some of the best storytellers in the West. I encourage you to go to fishtrap.org. It's both, there are storytelling workshops and also events to hear other people's stories. We have a couple, two of our former writers in residence, Eric Brayman and Jason Graham, aka Mosley Wada, will be here. It should be great. So take a look, and I'll talk more about this next month. But February 27, 28, Winter Fish Trap, Our American Story. Okay, let's get to our third reader. This will be fun. June Colony wasn't born out here in Eastern Oregon. She just knew it was home the first time she came out of the Minam and found the valley awaiting her arrival. She soon returned, having coaxed her 1968 VW bus into bringing her a few belongings and a box of canned food from her mom up the steep roads and into Lostine. That was 50-some years ago, and it looks like she's here to stay. Welcome, June Colony.
So, I got props. And I don't know if you guys are going to see all the action, but I'm going to give it a try. So, the first poem is actually kind of a song, but I thought it'd work real good because everybody around here knows what this is. It's blue twine. So, here we go. When your fence is down and money is low, grab a hank of twine and down the line you go. It'll look real pretty, like a flower in spring, and it's cheap, and it'll fix anything. Blue twine, not orange, blue twine. I wish it'd last a longer time. If your gate won't shut, blue twine is what you need. And if your pants are slipping, it will impede. Grab a hank, tie a knot or two, it'll stick like glue. Fill up your pockets. It's easy to get. Blue twine, blue twine, blue twine. I wish you'd last a longer time. It'll give your farm a certain zing, and your neighbors will soon be doing the same thing. But there's just one thing. Take my advice. If you use blue twine, you gotta fix it twice. Blue twine, blue twine, blue twine. I just wish you'd last a longer time. And that's it. So the next one, I actually pictured myself kind of cleaning up between the rows, but I'm told I gotta be close to this. So this is a poem called The Angle of the Blade, The Pull of the Draw, and I had the opportunity to work for A.L. Duckett in the Imnaha. So, held loosely against my hip, I amble the hoe down one side of the narrow corn row, and then turn, and on the row again, I move the dirt up and tuck in the green blades under the soil. A.L. Duckett said that he taught me to work. And that summer, 45 years ago, it was hot. It was Imnaha hot. He must have watched me for a while. My arms were pounding the ground with my hoe in front of me. I moved awkwardly among the corn, rows endlessly in that 3-acre plot. To a man from Iowa, this was a child's garden, a mere Sunday morning amble through those miles of Midwest corn. But I went to the river often, hoe, and then swim, and hoe, and then swim, and then hoe, and swim, 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 and then swim, 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 swim. Duckett was 80, and I was 28. He stood at the riverbank, hoe in hand. "Come here," he said. "I will show you how to hoe my corn." His movements were small. He shuffled steadily along the 6-inch stalks, and I followed clumsily beside him. He said, "Hold it so," scuffing the shallow corn along the angled edge. 95 degrees heat, he worked on. He worked, and I worked until supper time. Now, in my cool mountain garden, this clearing sky in June could mean a frost. So I danced through my half-acre plot, hoeing soil against the corn shoots, banking dirt to blanket the new growth. I shuffle, and I pull, and I turn, and I draw. A.L. and I still in a field of corn, working quietly together. Sorry you didn't see all the hoe stuff. So it was really interesting to hear your poem about the canyons, because as some of you know, I was able to work for the Gorbits at Cherry Creek as a sheep herder for a season and up in the high mountains. And as the year went by, my words became less and less and less, because I only saw Leo maybe every 2 weeks and came into town, I don't know, twice. So this is a story. I started in the heat of the summer and I worked till spring. It's called 3 Degrees. 95 degrees, no wind, no clouds, No trees, no sound, just sun. My band huddles and circles, heads down, sides heaving, shoulders together, seeking shade. On my horse, I turn his head up to the ridgetop, through the rim rocks and the heat waves, towards the high ridge, through boulders, red as blood, sagebrush blooms, all stilled by this heat. Off my horse now, at the ridgetop, a faint breeze bends the dry grass. Under his belly, I slide, and my dog, she crawls there too, the only shade for miles. And we just wait. We wait together, horse, sheep, dog, and I. And we all just wait for the cool evening. It's barely 3 degrees. Sharp wind, no clouds. Against the rims I huddle, cold in this weak sun. The sheep, they creep below, their hooves digging through the snow, their heads down, bunch grass frozen to their lips. The sheep eat, and I wait. My feet frozen in my boots. The sheep eat, and I wait, waiting for darkness to come and my warm tent to embrace me. 45 degrees. Cool breeze. Spring flowers, bunch grass, newly green, ewes fat with lambs. Night has come. The band sleeps, and outside the full moon glows. I slip out through the tent door into the stars that surround me. Hello, God, I say, to creation, to the moon and the stars, to my band and the dogs, to the open canyons. The third one is actually something that I wrote a long time ago, but I really feel it's appropriate right now. It's called I'm Not Supposed to Be Around. I'm not supposed to be around people that lie with their eyes. I'm not meant to be around people that never realize the love that lies outside their greed, a love that could satisfy their every need. I'm just supposed to be around people that put their arms around me. I'm just meant to be around people whose love sometimes astounds me. Those who understand through years of belief that the only way to be happy in this world is to be real. That the only kind of living is when you do just what you feel. And that the only kind of love is when your soul you don't conceal. I'm not meant to be around people that moan and they bitch and they cry. I'm not supposed to be around people that won't look me in the eye. Those who do the opposite of what they feel and say, those whose will is sadly melted away. Now I know it's hopeless sometimes. I've had that empty longing. But please, look up into the sky. Please stand proudly and fiercely cry, thank you for this gift of my life. Thank you for this gift of your life. And with each other, hand in hand, sing and dance upon this holy land. I'm just meant to be around those with true belief. I'm just supposed to be around those whose eyes joyfully speak. Praise this world, oh the sky. Praise this world, the mountains high. Praise this earth below our feet. Praise the leaves. Praise the waters. And praise those with loving hearts. Praise those with loving hearts. Thank you. You can
Hey, before we take the break, I just want to, we all at Fishtrap want to say thanks to all of you who remembered Fishtrap in your end of year giving. As you've probably heard, Fishtrap is no longer taking federal funding, so we're being scrappy and putting on these programs, doing other things. And if you haven't, there's still time. There's a beautiful carved fish at the front door if you throw a few bucks in on your way out, or you can make a donation online. We just really appreciate it. So we can keep doing fun things like Fireside. Now we're going to, there still are 4 empty spots on the open mic. If you ever wanted to think that you might want to do something, sign your name on there. If you've read before and somebody else who hasn't read, give them a shot. But let's take about a 10-minute break and refill your cups, and we'll come back and see everybody out there online. Thanks for tuning in. Okay.